Silence is often misunderstood. In a world that values quick responses, loud opinions, and immediate reactions, choosing to be silent can be seen as weakness. But true silence, the kind that comes from strength, wisdom, and self-control, is anything but weak. It is one of the most powerful responses a person can offer in moments of conflict, misunderstanding, or emotional turmoil. Silence creates space, demands reflection, and often speaks louder than words ever could. When we feel attacked, misunderstood, or pressured to explain ourselves, our instinct is to react. We want to defend, justify, or even retaliate. But silence, when used intentionally, can shift the energy of a situation. It removes us from the emotional chaos and places us in a position of power because the person who controls their response controls the conversation. Instead of fueling the fire, silence allows the heat to die down, giving both parties time to think rather than react. There is an undeniable strength in restraint. Choosing to remain silent when provoked is not about avoidance. It is about mastery. It shows that you are not controlled by external forces, but are grounded in your own sense of self. People who lack control over their emotions often see silence as weakness, but those who understand its power know it is one of the greatest forms of self-discipline. It forces others to confront their own emotions without your interference. Silence is also a tool for self-preservation. Some conversations are not worth having. Some battles are not worth fighting. Some people do not deserve your energy. Engaging in constant debates, explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, or arguing with those who have no intention of listening drains your emotional reserves. Silence allows you to disengage from what does not serve you. It is a way of saying, I value my peace more than proving a point. Beyond conflict, silence is essential for clarity. When we step back from the noise, whether it's the opinions of others, the chaos of social media, or even our own racing thoughts, we give ourselves room to think. Some of our best realizations, greatest insights, and deepest healing happen in the stillness. Silence allows us to hear ourselves, to feel what we truly need, and to move forward with intention rather than impulse. One of the greatest lessons in life is learning when to speak and when to remain silent. There is a time for standing up, using our voice, and setting boundaries. But there is also a time for quiet strength, for letting go, stepping back, and allowing things to unfold without our interference. Silence does not mean we are passive. It means we are discerning. It means we understand that not every situation requires our reaction. Silence also teaches patience. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. When we withhold words, we allow time to reveal truths that conversation cannot. People will eventually show who they are. Situations will unfold as they should, and the right decisions will become clear, not through force, but through observation. Silence gives us the upper hand, not by controlling others, but by keeping ourselves in control. At its core, the power of silence is about wisdom. It is knowing that words hold weight and that sometimes withholding them speaks volumes. It is understanding that our peace is worth more than our pride. It is choosing to protect our energy rather than waste it on those who do not deserve it. Silence is not empty. It is full of insight, discipline, and self-respect. When used wisely, it becomes one of the most powerful tools we have. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks. They do not shut people out of our lives, but they ensure that only the right people have access. When we talk about growth, healing, and becoming the best versions of ourselves, we cannot ignore the role that boundaries play. And sometimes, the most powerful boundary we can set is cutting contact, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect, because not everyone deserves unlimited access to us, and not every relationship is meant to last forever. Many of us struggle with guilt when it comes to setting boundaries, especially when it involves distancing ourselves from people we once cared about. We worry about being seen as rude, ungrateful, or even heartless. But here's the truth. Self-respect requires us to make hard choices. If someone constantly drains our energy, disrespects our boundaries, or makes us feel small, we owe it to ourselves to step back. Growth is not about holding on to every relationship. It's about recognizing which ones are holding us back. Cutting contact is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. There are people who will never respect your boundaries, no matter how many times you explain them. They will take and take until you have nothing left to give. They will manipulate, guilt trip, and twist your words to make you feel like the bad guy. When you recognize that someone is not willing to honor the space you need, walking away is not just an option, it is a necessity. Growth requires space. Just as a plant cannot thrive in a pot that is too small, we cannot grow in environments that stifle us. When we hold on to relationships that are toxic, one-sided, or emotionally exhausting, we limit our own potential. We shrink ourselves to fit into spaces that were never meant for us. Cutting contact is sometimes the only way to reclaim that space, to create the room we need for healing, self-discovery, and transformation. One of the hardest truths to accept is that not everyone is meant to stay in our lives forever. Some people come into our lives as lessons, not lifelong companions. Holding on to relationships out of nostalgia, obligation, or fear of being alone only delays our growth. It is painful to walk away, but it is far more painful to stay in situations that slowly erode our sense of self. We must learn to release what no longer serves us, even when it hurts. When we cut contact, we are not just setting a boundary with another person, we are setting a boundary with ourselves. We are saying, I will no longer tolerate disrespect. I will no longer allow my energy to be drained. I will no longer betray myself just to keep the peace. And in doing so, we teach ourselves what we truly deserve. We send a message to our own heart that we are worthy of relationships that nourish us, not ones that deplete us. Silence is a boundary too. Sometimes the best response to someone who refuses to respect your boundaries is no response at all. When we stop engaging in toxic cycles, we take back our power. We stop trying to explain ourselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding us. We stop trying to fix people who do not want to change. We stop seeking closure from those who were never capable of giving it. Our silence becomes our strength. At the end of the day, cutting contact is not about them. It is about you. It is about choosing your peace over your past. It is about prioritizing your well-being over someone else's comfort. It is about understanding that real love, whether from friends, family, or partners, never requires you to sacrifice your self-respect. Boundaries are not selfish, they are necessary. And sometimes the strongest boundary you can set is simply walking away. Healing is not loud. It does not happen in the chaos of constant noise, endless conversations, or the opinions of others pulling us in different directions. True healing, the kind that reaches deep into the core of who we are, happens in solitude. It happens when we step away from the distractions, the toxic cycles, and the expectations placed upon us. In silence, we finally hear what our soul has been trying to tell us all along. We often fear solitude because we associate it with loneliness, but there is a difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is an ache for connection, but solitude is a choice to connect with ourselves. It is the sacred space where we stop seeking external validation and start listening to our inner voice. In a world that constantly tells us who to be, solitude allows us to strip away the noise and rediscover who we truly are. When we are constantly surrounded by people, their emotions, and their opinions, it can be difficult to separate our feelings from theirs. We absorb their energy, their expectations, and sometimes even their fears. But in solitude, we can finally sit with our own emotions without interference. We can ask ourselves, what do I truly feel? What do I truly need? Without the pressure to explain or justify our emotions, we can begin to process them honestly. Silence is a mirror. It reflects back everything we have been avoiding, the pain we have suppressed, the wounds we have ignored, the truths we have been too afraid to face. It is uncomfortable at first. Sitting alone with our thoughts can feel overwhelming, especially when we have spent years distracting ourselves from our own pain. But avoidance is not healing. What we refuse to face will always find a way to surface. Solitude gives us the courage to finally acknowledge what needs to be healed. Growth does not happen in the rush of everyday life. It happens in the quiet moments, in the pauses between chapters, in the spaces where we allow ourselves to just be. Solitude gives us the opportunity to breathe, to reflect, and to realign with what truly matters. When we step away from the noise of the world, we gain clarity about who we are, what we want, and what we are no longer willing to tolerate. It is in this stillness that we find the strength to move forward. Some of the greatest revelations in life happen when we are alone. The decision to walk away from a toxic relationship, the realization that we deserve better, the deep understanding of what we need to heal. All of these moments of clarity are born in solitude. Without space, we remain entangled in patterns that no longer serve us. But when we create distance, we gain perspective. We begin to see things as they truly are, not as we once wished them to be. Solitude is not about isolation. It is about transformation. It is the space where we learn to love ourselves without conditions, where we learn to trust our own judgment, where we develop the resilience to stand on our own. When we embrace solitude, we stop fearing the silence. Instead, we welcome it as a teacher. We begin to understand that our worth is not dependent on how many people surround us, but on how deeply we know ourselves. At its core, healing is a journey inward. No one else can do the work for us. No amount of external validation, temporary distractions, or surface level healing can replace the deep soul level restoration that happens in solitude. It is in the quiet that we find our truth. It is in the stillness that we find our strength. And it is in the space we create for ourselves that we finally allow healing to take root. Not everyone in your life deserves a front row seat. Some people should be in the balcony, watching from a distance. Others shouldn't be in the theater at all. Who we allow close to us determines the quality of our lives, our peace, our confidence, our emotional well-being. The truth is, not everyone is meant to walk beside us, to know our dreams, or to have access to our deepest emotions. The sooner we learn to be intentional about who sits in the front row of our lives, the more peace we will have. Many of us were raised to believe that love means unlimited access, that being a good friend, family member, or partner means always being available, always listening, always helping, always giving. But access is a privilege, not a right. Just because someone has known you for years does not mean they deserve a front row seat. Just because someone wants your energy does not mean they are entitled to it. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, not obligation. We must stop confusing history with value. Some people have been in our lives for a long time, but that does not mean they are meant to stay. If someone constantly drains your energy, disrespects your boundaries, or brings more stress than support, it does not matter how long you've known them. Time does not equal worth. The people who deserve a front row seat are the ones who celebrate your growth, respect your boundaries, and show up for you in ways that feel safe and genuine. When we allow the wrong people too close, we pay the price. We feel exhausted, unappreciated, and unseen. Our energy becomes scattered, our confidence shrinks, and our ability to focus on our own growth weakens. Some people only come close to take your energy, your kindness, your time, but give little in return. When you start protecting your energy, you will notice that some people become angry. That is because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Let them be angry. Your peace is more important than their expectations. Choosing who gets a front row seat in your life is an act of self-respect. The right people will not demand constant access. They will not make you feel guilty for protecting your energy. They will understand that a healthy relationship is not about possession, but about presence. The right people will support your growth even if it means they don't always have immediate access to you. These are the people who deserve to be close, the ones who pour into you as much as you pour into them. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about keeping yourself whole. They are about creating space for the relationships that truly nourish you. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, who inspire you, who challenge you in healthy ways, your energy changes. You stop feeling drained. You stop second guessing yourself. You start feeling lighter, more confident, more at peace. The quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of the people you allow close to you. The truth is, not everyone is ready to sit in the front row of your life. Some people are only meant to be passing acquaintances, background characters, or lessons along the way, and that's okay. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to you. The more you elevate, the more selective you must become. Not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Your energy is sacred, your peace is priceless, and your time is valuable. Be intentional with who you share them with. At the end of the day, you get to decide who gets a front row seat in your life. You get to choose who has access to your heart, your dreams, your vulnerability. Make sure those people are worthy of the seat they occupy, because the ones who truly deserve to be close to you, the ones who uplift, encourage, and respect you, will never take your presence for granted. Peace is not a luxury, it is a necessity. In a world that constantly demands our attention, our energy, and our emotional investment, protecting our peace is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves. Yet so many of us allow our peace to be disrupted by toxic relationships, by unnecessary drama, by the expectations of others. We sacrifice our well-being for the sake of keeping the peace with others, not realizing that real peace begins within. Your peace is not something you should negotiate, bargain with, or give away freely. It is something you must guard fiercely. The biggest threat to our peace is the belief that we must always be available, that we must always answer the call, respond to the message, engage in every conflict, and be everything to everyone. But peace requires boundaries. It requires the ability to say no without guilt, to walk away without explanation, and to remove ourselves from situations that disrupt our emotional well-being. The moment you decide that your peace is non-negotiable, you stop allowing people to manipulate you with their chaos. You stop feeling responsible for fixing things that were never yours to fix. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how much access they have to us. There will always be people who thrive on negativity, who seek out arguments, who project their insecurities onto others, who are never satisfied no matter how much you give. Protecting your peace means recognizing these patterns and refusing to engage. It means understanding that you do not owe anyone your energy, especially when that energy is being drained, manipulated, or taken for granted. Walking away is not weakness, it is wisdom. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that choosing peace means being selfish. But the truth is, the more you prioritize your well-being, the better you show up in every area of your life. When you protect your peace, you have more energy for the people who truly matter. You make better decisions. You become more present, more joyful, more aligned with who you are meant to be. The people who love you will never ask you to sacrifice your peace for their comfort. And the ones who do, they were never truly for you. Yet, peace is also about inner work. It is not just about removing toxic people from your life. It is about removing toxic habits, thoughts, and behaviors that keep you in a state of unrest. Sometimes we are the ones disturbing our own peace by holding on to resentment, engaging in self-doubt, or staying in situations that do not serve us. True peace requires us to take responsibility for our own healing. It requires us to stop seeking external validation and start creating a sense of calm within ourselves, no matter what is happening around us. When you decide that your peace is non-negotiable, you start making different choices. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop forcing relationships that have run their course. You stop showing up in places where you are not valued. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who cannot see it. You begin to move with a quiet confidence, knowing that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. One of the greatest acts of self-love is protecting your peace unapologetically. That might mean stepping away from relationships that drain you. It might mean turning off your phone for the night. It might mean saying no to an invitation that does not align with your spirit. It might mean choosing silence over unnecessary arguments. The more you honor your own well-being, the more you attract people and situations that respect it. Your peace is not up for debate. It is a priority. At the end of the day, you are the guardian of your own peace. No one else will protect it for you. No one else will set the boundaries that you need. No one else will remove you from environments that are harming you. That responsibility belongs to you alone. The moment you stop negotiating your peace is the moment you step into your true power. And when you do, you will realize that nothing, not approval, not validation, not even familiarity, is worth sacrificing the peace you have worked so hard to build.